I asked my wife to make me a pineapple upside down cake for my birthday.
Ooh.
And she is she's a fancy Houston lady,
Hmm.
and she kind of had no idea what that was. So as she's looking that up, she comes to me, and I think she basically had the realization that I asked her to make white trash food for me. And
You're like, and for breakfast, I want French toast made out of white bread.
boom, and the literal and metaphoric cherry on top or bottom, as it were, is at one point she came up and said, "Do you realize there are maraschino cherries in a pineapple upside down cake?" And nonetheless, she found a way to gussy it up. She made a 2-layer pineapple upside down cake from scratch. None of this open the cans of pineapple and pour Bisquick on top stuff. And then she put pecan icing on the outside. It was delicious.
That's like some country club stuff there.
Yeah, we were hitting the links or something, but but man, it was delicious. I hadn't had a pineapple upside down cake in forever, since the era of shake and bake or something. Man, they are so good because you get the butter and the brown sugar on the bottom, and it like crustizes. I think that's a technical term.
The pecan frosting that or glaze, that sounds pretty tasty.
Oh, so good, so good. So that's how we opened up the new year, along with some steak, things like that. Things proceeded well. What are we? We're at the 11th day of January.
It's a good time to kick off the year.
Yeah. How are things going in the new year for you guys? Are things looking up or down? How would you rate it? Buy, hold, or sell?
Buy.
Wow. Not right with I would say hold. I don't know. I have a hard time getting back in the saddle after an extended vacation. So brutal reality of reentry into the workforce is always a little tough for me.
Yeah, I tested out the infinite vacation policy and took 2 weeks off, and they're still paying me.
So okay, all right. So
think it
Jack,
I haven't gone back yet.
I like it.
I checked my email a few times to be like, let's plan something in the new year. Maybe send a URL, but I managed not to do any work. It was exciting. Lots of I think the best review was said by one of my relatives, which was, I think this is the most we've drank at Christmas ever.
That sounds like a buy.
That's right. 2015 went out on a high note, and everyone drifted off at night.
Yeah. Well, I already got to kick off my year with a week in Seattle. We have our.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk. One of the first real topics.
Oh, okay.
Down cake.
Sorry.
So at the beginning of the year, because at the end of January we have our worldwide kickoff or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I assume, Brandon, working for a legit company, you have some sort of annual kickoff where the goals and priorities are set, missions are spelled out. Maybe there's even some humorful sort of presentations. You might find some executives sitting in big white leather chairs on a big stage.
The 2015 Red Book kickoff.
Yeah. But what I wanted to discuss, is so, because I think lots of our listeners are like us, just a bunch of mildly lucky sad sacks who work at large companies, or modicumly successful companies that are in their middle age. We're sort of in the Corvette country here of companies. So what do you do with these meetings as an individual? So you show up at this thing, right? You're going to be told computers are awesome. Things are looking great. We're going to reallocate all of our fuel units to do all sorts of awesome stuff. And as an individual, what do? You just hang out, you drink a lot, you not drink, you try to get involved in this process. How do you like maintain your sanity? Matt Ray, you just came from some.
Well, let's say there's a lot of drinking, and there's some things that are legal in Washington we don't have in Austin. But no, none of that. I was just joking.
Like drones.
Yes. Oh God, yeah, drones. And they don't have guns, so they were all very curious if I'd seen any shootouts yet. So far so good. But I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Well, you're like, down in Austin, shotgunning means something different.
There's actually some legitimate concern, and I'm like, yeah, nothing's going to happen because they're all coming to Austin.
You mean about drones or your company?
about there's no drone concern. They're all up in Amazon country, so
Oh yeah.
everyone there is excited about drones. But some of the gun stuff, I think it's I'm not a gun fan myself, but I think it's probably a little overblown. The consternation. But yeah,
Sure.
we had a big kickoff. Everyone goes up to Seattle. We hang out. We meet all of our new coworkers, and there's definitely a lot of socializing, partying, meetings. I don't know. It was fun though. Kind of exhausting if you're not a super extrovert to do like
Yes.
5 days of extroversion. But yeah,
That's rough.
it is rough because you're not like, I'm gonna see people next year, so I'm going back to my room and I'm just gonna chill tonight. You're like, oh, I'll go out tonight too.
Yeah, I've found that as I've gotten older, and maybe as I exhibit my age, that people give me a pass. They let me leave earlier than they used to.
Well, they're like, oh, old man Coté's gotta get head back to his room.
Gotta go sleep. I gotta get up early enough so I can enjoy my in-room coffee at the Westin.
Oh no, I mean there's a chef employee tradition of ending up at this fairly divey bar like every night.
What's it called?
The Diller Room.
The Diller Room.
The Diller Room. It's infamous. And any given night there will be a large portion of my delightful coworkers will be there, but I'm always the guy who's like, yeah, I'll see you guys in the morning and I'll get some sleep.
Yeah.
I always remember the Ann Richards quote you gave me a couple years back about, nothing useful ever happens after 9 p.m.
Yeah. That'll change your life.
It does. It totally does. I'm like, oh man, 10:30. I got to get to bed.
Yep.
But yeah,
well, I've only been to one. Is this true? Pretty much one annual kickoff at a company ever, and that is the pivotal one that I went to last year, right when I began, and it was useful. It was actually the sales kickoff, right? So you had all the salespeople, and they went over like what the messaging was and positioning and success, like all that stuff is useful, and it was good to sink in. And I think I agree with your point. Just go to bed early, like don't burn your brain like over the course of days, because you'll see all these people, right? Like that's the other thing that I've constructed in my head with the problem of extroversion is like there'll be plenty of chances to hang out with these people.
The true bonds of camaraderie are built at 3 a.m. over your fifth or sixth cocktail.
Yeah.
So I hear.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. I'm glad for those people who are bonded.
Yeah.
They can enjoy that. How about yourself, Brandon? Annual kickoffs. What's your play? What do you do?
Been to many of them. I think probably the couple things that I do that are maybe the same but a little bit different ones. Like one, I think you just need to meet as many people in person. And there's definitely the late night. I mean, really, if you can go out and have the bonding experience over a few beers, it's great. But like there is a noticeable difference in interaction. Like once you've met someone, even if it's just for a few minutes, like once you kind of like see who they are and the tone of their voice and kind of get a sense of that. So I always try to do that. Is just simply, especially people I think that are new or people that I've never met or going to be working with, like spend like at least 5 minutes just having like people make fun of small talk, but a simple small talk conversation, like how you doing, how are the kids, how'd you get in? That's a big benefit. And the other one is really watching the presenters and the executives of your company. Like you really want to learn who they are, pay attention to what they're talking about at the kickoff. And it's not so much like are they slide people or are they story people? Are they analytics people or are they kind of seat of the pants guys? And you get a lot of that by not so much looking at their presentations, but kind of observing them and like who they hang out with. Because that's always like to keep unlocking an organization is like when you go talk to that executive, is like, do you know his communication style? Does he want to see a spreadsheet of a bunch of data, or does he want to hear a story? Does he want an anecdote, or does he want something else? And because there's always the like official line of like, hey, here's the products and here's the message. And then there's like, what is everyone really saying and thinking, right? And that's the part that you're at these things that there is an opportunity to dive into, like just talking to sales guys, like, okay, what are you really using? What are you really talking to people? Because it's usually a lot different than the official product pitch or message. It's a very different thing. So that's a place that you can glean some interesting details along with like understanding your organization a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think that's true. You could do a lot of criminology, as it were. Like, and I think your last comment on what the salespeople actually do and say is that's often extremely interesting.
Well, and it helps. It definitely helps. Like, there should not be a big divergence about what's said, and then what's actually like done out in the field. And so sometimes, especially with a really distributed workforce, you kind of need to have the chance to get everyone back on the same page. It's like, okay, when we say this is what we mean. When we use these, I I'm always enjoying the maturity I see sometimes at some of our like messaging things, because there's a lot of like, these are the phrases you use to set up this next stage of conversations, and just to see it like whiteboarded out, like that sort of
like it's a process.
It is. It
like
is.
A little choose your own adventure.
I mean, coming from a developer background, you just kind of assume like all that stuff is complete bullshit. You're like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of hand wavy stuff and checks just magically show up, but it's like, oh, it's so so very tactical, and there are a lot of tactics that getting to see them up close is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, and I definitely think you can almost measure the success of a company of kind of the ratio of like abstract diagrams to like stories that are interesting, right? Like when you go to a kickoff and there's mostly abstract diagrams, like explaining your product or your features and your vision, like you're usually in for like a tough year. But if like someone's up there like and rattling off a story, and even the slides are kind of a backdrop and you're kind of listening, you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. And then we did this, and then the problem was this, and then we did this. And like, it's interesting. And like, and especially when an executive is really internalized, and then I feel like you're almost, it's like, I'd almost say like, hey, double down on that year. Like you're probably going to be in a good position because people get stories. It shows good strategy. They like narratives. Abstract diagrams show like lack of thinking and unclear, and it's just kind of like the way the human brain works. So, I do find myself when I'm in like 8 hours of slides and I haven't really heard a story in a long time, I feel like, this could be bad.
I think that's a good tracer because it points to actually having something that people want to pay for. Right? Like if you can come up with stories and the way things happened and the way like it points towards like, we know what problem we're solving, we know how the problem is solved, and it has been solved at least one time by someone who gave us money, right? Instead of like, here's what's potential and as you say, more abstract things. And so the more specificity in sort of stories that you have, and it's hard to make up a story about something that doesn't exist. I mean, I guess there is fiction, but you get the point. Like it's hard to make up stories in a business context about like, I went to do this and we had this account and they bought this thing, and next thing you know, they are running a cluster of awesomeness.
That's what we call it.
Speaking of clusters of awesomeness, it looks like over the break, Oracle bought a local Docker company.
Yeah,
the old Stack Engine. If I may say, recently they get my prize for some of the best embroidered T-shirts or shirts that they wear. They would get like those Dickie shirts, very thick shirts and like embroidered Stack Engine on them, with almost like "Hi, my name is" like as their name there, like they were mechanics or something. I ran into some of them when I was at the Docker meetup last week, and they weren't like slitting their wrists since now they're owned by Oracle. They seem to be doing all right.
Well, they're all excited to move down onto south of Town Lake.
Oh yeah, there's some kerfuffle about the real estate there. Where are they moving it?
I think they're right next to. So for those of y'all unfamiliar with Austin real estate, um, the Oracle's opening a large new campus. I think it's right next to the Austin American Statesman.
Mm,
And I said Town Lake. It's now Lady.
Ladybird Lake,
Yeah, Ladybird Lake.
which is actually a river, but never mind.
Yes, by the bats. So
So they'll be next to Joe's Crab Shack, a place that I went to over the break. You ever been to that Joe's Crab Shack there on the lake, as it were?
I have not.
I actually really try never to go there.
I don't think I had ever been to a Joe's Crab Shack, and I wouldn't say surprised, but I was not disappointed. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. The waitress brought out. It's funny. My son Cormac looked at the adult drink menu, and he wanted to have a drink because there was like a toy shark in the drink, and so he figured that out. And then the waitress brought out 2 toy sharks for him at the end of the meal. It was pretty good. But anyways, the attraction of the Joe's Crab Shack there is it's like right on the river. So I was thinking, when it gets a little hotter, they've got a deck. You could go have some beers out there, maybe some oysters. That would because you can't screw up oysters, right? You don't even cook them. I guess you could screw them up.
You can screw them up
I think
really
you can
badly.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think they can go real bad. And that could be a real bad situation for you.
I mean, as long as their health inspection code is up and everything or whatever, I
That
think
would be the
it's
part you can
cool.
screw up, like keep them too long.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying it was nice. Anyways,
You survived
Oracle-
Joe Crab Shack. We got you.
Crab Shack now.
I did think it was interesting though on the Stack Engine. It's one, it is kind of the we see it so much, especially here in Austin. It was like, hey, start a company around a new technology. Eventually, IBM, Oracle. So I mean, it just seems like the same set of people come here and buy them all the time. I thought it was interesting that they got bought so early because I never, like I knew they were doing broadly Docker orchestration and management, which I know kind of means nothing when I just said. I never kind of got past understanding that, but it did seem like it kind of felt like to me Oracle was like, we're going to open this big cloud unit, and it was like, yeah, let's
Let's get some of that.
yeah, let's okay, you guys fit the bill, move down here and you're going to start the group, which is good. I mean, I'm glad they've done it, but I never, and maybe this is just me not understanding, I never quite understood what was their their niche within the Docker ecosystem.
I think, I mean, my overly generalization of the Docker ecosystem is that it's still a land rush. It's starting to slow down, and a lot of companies were trying to get a lot of attention so they could be acquired. There's not like a lot of customer acquisition at this stage. It's still mind share, and I think the financials on the at least on the article I saw said they'd taken like $4.5 million in VC and they sold for 1.5. So the mindshare play didn't work out, I guess. But Oracle gets themselves some Docker bootstrapping, and they get some people who ostensibly know what they're doing.
So we think this is just like a kind of a occupier.
Yeah, an acquihire. I don't know. I mean, they definitely have
that word in 2016. I know I just used it, but I can't say it. I just can't pronounce it.
That's what it is. Oracle did it to Nebula. They didn't buy Nebula, but they bought all their employees.
All the people.
Yeah. If you need to get into a field that doesn't have a lot of people who have that skill set, you look for companies where maybe you can lock them up somehow.
I will say the thing on how they did the best. So they did run, to my knowledge, they ran the Docker meetups and they generated. I mean, again, within the meetup crowd kind of expectations, they got like a pretty good turnout for the ones, at least the ones I went to. So that part, I thought they did do a good job, at least here in Austin, the ecosystem. So that's certainly worth something. I don't. It's not trivial, but.
Yeah, there was like I don't know 70 or 80 people for that one that I was at last week. That seems like a lot for an Austin meeting.
It does. I didn't see it quite that high, but I had been to at least one where it was like 30 or 40, and so that's good. I mean, it is good that they're Oracle wants a big presence here in Austin, and certainly Docker will be part of the future of everybody. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yes. Well, switching topics. So what'd you get for Christmas? What's pick one item? What's the one item you got? Not only that you liked, but that you would recommend that other people get someone they don't know what to get a gift for.
Home Depot gift card,
Oh,
Alamo Draft House gift card,
oh, I almost thought you said Elmo. You're going to tell me some Elmo thing.
REI gift card. A
So
lot
you
of
got a lot of gift cards, huh?
I
You
did.
just like brought her an empty wallet, filled it up with gift cards.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. But see, this is a constant problem. Like, what do you get people as adults as a gift?
Did we go over this last time? Like
We did, but now it's sort of this is like a retrospective. So how did it work out, right? Like, how did what did
okay.
like,
So
the gift giving work?
so in retrospect, it worked out fine.
Uh-huh.
You know, my wife and I did not exchange major gifts or anything like that.
Mhm.
The kids, you know, they all had a great time. And yeah, once you get, you know, I guess we need to put a Santa warning on here, but you know, once you get over the whole Santa thing, you know,
Yeah, no spoilers, Matt.
no
Come on.
spoilers, because I know that's like, you know, my 12-year-old won't say he doesn't believe, because you know, if you say you don't believe, the toy pipeline slows down.
Yeah, all you get is a $50 treasury bill or something, right?
Yeah, you're like, oh, Amazon gift card. I will
And you follow the Brandon Wichard method of gifting. I'm giving you the gift of not spending money. Merry Christmas.
No, but remember, there's a very be careful there. Like, so I'll just give you my example. In my house, I bought myself a new impact driver that I found on sale. It was great, and I called that my gift. My wife bought me.
Hold on. What's an impact driver?
It's like a drill, but like it's like a drill, but it's designed to help drive screws, and you can also use it as a drill, a little bit faster, a little bit better. So definitely get impact driver over, and you can. It's much easier to interchange your bits. So like when you need to switch between driver bits, it's very simple. So that's tip one: get an impact driver. Don't bother with the drill. Nobody on this listen to this podcast needs a real drill. Just get yourself an impact.
I use my drill all the time.
I'm telling you, you get an impact driver, you'll never go back. I promise you that.
I'm like hanging lighting and, you know, drilling wood. I actually use a drill for drill things.
Get an impact driver. I can't emphasize it enough.
I've got an electric screwdriver and I have a drill.
You just need one. It's just an impact driver.
Way to be on message.
You need it. But I was gonna say so my wife and I got the gift of like no one giving me anything that I really didn't need or that wasn't easily taken back. But I did remember, this is the part I was gonna say. For my wife, I bought her basically everything on her wish list.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is very important to her, and she was really excited. So everybody got what they wanted at my house.
You basically were sent a spreadsheet and you filled it out appropriately, right? Like you got it filled out correctly. Product management job done.
Check. Check and check.
They forwarded it to orders@amazon.com.
Only. That would be that would be an Amazon feature I could get behind.
Yeah,
it's wife adds to wish list, and it's within her birthday, Christmas, or Valentine's Day. Then automatically order and send to her.
Yeah, the Amazon concierge.
Automatically with the gift wrapped option check.
Yeah, gift wrapped options and predefined note.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, because UPS rolls up to my house and dumps a huge cardboard box at the front door of a bike. Like, well, no, thanks, Amazon.
no Santa on Amazon.
My daughter's like, woohoo!
Bye.
Like, happy December 21st.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had to do this. This is the year that our son discovered how to root around in the closets and find the gifts. So we had to do a lot of contingency explaining, like, well, if this isn't brought by Santa, then we're going to give you this one. Otherwise, we'll do. It was very. I think it was like three like clusters of things that he found that were just very annoying.
Tell him to mind his own business.
Yeah, that works.
the
And
other
it's funny.
thing-
It's funny. Just this morning, he found my wife. Whenever there's a good sale on cheap toys, she buys a whole bunch of them to give away to birthday parties. As you do. And this morning he found like a bag of Hot Wheels. There were like 20 Hot Wheels in there, and there was that ominous sound that you hear with your kids, which is no sound at all. And it had been like 5 minutes, and I was like, I have not heard where Cormac is. So I looked around for him, and he was sitting in a closet, like counting out the cars. And he looked up and he was like, "Look at what I found, Daddy."
It's awesome.
Yeah, we gotta start finding a better place to cache these gifts.
We kept ours at a friend's house. But the bike, we were like, well, that one's from us now.
Well, I got an Apple Watch, and I think I'm gonna try it out for a while before I make a ruling. But I think it's pretty nice. It clearly is like a luxury item that no one needs, right? Like there's nothing really redeeming about it. It's not like a phone, but it satisfies that thing of like making it easier to consume notifications, and I actually it's good for telling the time.
Who knew?
But I still have to prevent myself from pulling out my phone to check the time.
Which version did you get? The sport version or one of the higher?
I have like the Milanese something, like the one that's silver or something with a magnet clasp on it. Yeah, it's nice. So I can also be all fancy and maybe get mugged. That'll be exciting. I can break my lifelong streak. But it's a little it's also a little underwhelming in that, like, obviously people who are like writing apps for the iOS thing are like taking a big pass on the Apple Watch. They're like, maybe I won't do anything, because there's really not that there's not that much going on over there app wise, and most things are not very creative. They're not just, I don't know. It's really odd.
So you're saying Internet of Things is boring?
Wearables. That's a word we're not supposed to use anymore.
Yeah. I think there was a whole blog post about words not to use in 2016.
See, you catalog them. Unicorns.
Oh,
wearables.
Yeah. I don't think there are any unicorns left. So
sharing economy in the bubble.
Yeah. I think unicorns and sharing economy go hand in hand.
Well, but Coté, you seem like an ideal person to make, like some now informed judgment. Is the Apple Watch, is it just a novelty that will fade, or is it a platform? It's just like any other platform. It's just really early, and people are still trying to figure out what's the best use case. And
sure,
the platform needs to get a little bit more mature, so it's maybe not tethered to the iPhone all the time. And
for the attentive. For the attentive listener, I will try not to be totally abstract and use some actual real-world stories, so as to engender some confidence. I mean, I think the real-world things that are useful are things like the following. I mean, I do kind of joke about telling the time, but that's actually kind of nice, and doing things like setting timers is actually really handy, right? Like, so I cook a lot, and I also, as I have said many times, have a young child that I have to time things like, we have 30 minutes before I turn the lights off, so you should brush your teeth, God damn it. I don't say the God damn it part, but anyways, and it is kind of cool to like just tap your little thing and start a timer. You can start that right from there. And you can also like list the weather on there. So as a dashboard and like a really quick way to kind of activate some features, I find that part really handy and nice. Like I'm much more in tune with the weather now, which, like that doesn't really matter.
That's like such an old man thing, right?
Yeah. Like knowing when, like I most of the watch faces I have configured will tell me when sun up and sundown is, which is interesting. Hold on, from the respect of like, if we want to go to the park, we only have 2 hours, right? So that's that's a concrete thing. Let me illustrate an abstract thing with it. Like, if you look at the watch face, so many people, I don't know what to call them, people who make apps, they don't do anything with it. And what they do with it is really lame, right? Like there's one concrete thing, like you can have it show you the next meeting that you have. But since I kind of follow the Matt Ray practice of calendars, which is to say I put everything into various different calendars, like what's coming up next, according to the 5 calendars I subscribe to, is meaningless, right? Mm-hmm. And it's sort of good at figuring out what the primary calendar is, but there should be a way of going in and configuring, like, I only want to pay attention to this calendar, so forth and so on. So,
where do you configure it?
There's an app on your phone, which is a
Okay.
good choice. So you open up that watch app on your phone and you do all sorts of stuff. But like, there's so much potential to put other stuff on there that would be nice, right? Like I loaded up the CNN app, and it gives you like the most recent headline or whatever. You can have that as on your watch face or a notification. But it's like I had that on for 3 days, and all I found out was like when this affluenza teenager was like getting arrested in Mexico. It's just like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Right. and like there's a Nuzzle app, and there's also a Newsify app, but they don't really like Newsify is an RSS reader that hooks up to Feedly. And so in there you would want to go in and like pick some RSS feeds that would show up as your most recent things, right? And maybe there's a Flipboard app, I don't know. But the problem is like for folks like myself who sort of like have this self-created fire hose of information, like I need a way of filtering the notifications down to things that I care about. But so there's basically like there's this one watch face called Modular, which has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 different things you can put on there. And it's just weird that there's not more options to put things in there, right? Like, anyways, so that's what would be handy. Now, another thing that's handy is like the getting notifications on it is actually pretty nice, because, you know, I miss a lot of notifications with the pocket in my phone, the phone in my pocket. But it's actually like you can turn on this like hyper notification thing on the watch, and like you never miss it. Exactly. And so that's actually handy for knowing like when you know, like something's coming up. Like you know, last night I cooked some tuna steaks on the grill, and you know, you don't want to overcook the tuna steak, so I set a timer for 3 minutes, and the thing buzzed on my wrist, and boom, I didn't miss it. It was wonderful.
One of my coworkers had directions while we were walking around.
Yeah, and I haven't.
That's pretty handy. But
I haven't tried that out yet, because I don't think Google Maps like does that, and I just for just by principle I don't want to use Apple Maps. I don't. I just feel like Apple Maps, and never minding the weird quality problems they had at the beginning, I feel like that product should just not exist. I feel like Google Maps is good enough. Just stay in your box and don't ruin the ecosystem. and then not you know, to not only only heap scoring on Apple. I feel like Wireways and Google Maps separate applications at this point, right?
Agreed.
Pick one of them and kill the other. And I've been using Waze enough on the phone that I'm starting to understand the Waze way. Like I like the cleanliness of the desert and the Google Maps and everything. But I understand that Waze is a very utilitarian thing. If I could turn off those fucking cartoon things, which I probably can, I think I would like it. But Waze, they just need to pick one of them. Anyways, now there's another category of things. All the health monitoring stuff is kind of fun, right? Like it does your steps and like, you know, whatever. But you could get that with the Fitbit thing or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and then you see like Nike and Under Armour have like 400 or 500 developers working for them. Like,
yeah, and also you get this new app called Activities or something, and it's a good example of, as cataloged in like the Horace Dediu land of Apple analysis, it's a good example of the major failing of Apple, which is they don't really have consistent follow through. So this Activities app, it looks really nice and it's really cool, but it's just sort of like all it tells you is how many hours you've stood, the calories you've expended, and what's the other one? One other thing that it does. But like it's not evolving. Like it should be evolving every week and new things coming in there and doing stuff, but it's just like static. It's like the podcast app. Like it feels like it's never going to evolve and be like this travesty. And meanwhile, the assholes at Fitbit are worried about profit, so they don't support any of this. So like you can't load up the Fitbit app, and Fitbit doesn't work with health kits, so it's just like this whole other world that you can't do anything with. So, but then there's another type of thing that's nice, and you can do like we use Okta, may it burn in hell and be cursed forever. And basically that said, you can do a little 2FA thing on the watch. So you can install your app and you can do a thing in Okta where it like sends a notification and then you can just press a button on your watch and then it doesn't have to burn in hell. It's actually pretty nice. So there's all sorts of things like that. But I think the issue is like, I would expect the watch to be more of like a remote control for everything else. But like the app developers like aren't really feeling it. And then there's a bunch of just weird things that maybe are more peculiar to me. But like there's all these apps that like won't let you just like read the full article on your watch. Like, why not? Like Instapaper of all places lets you read the full thing, but pretty much every single thing wants to like hand it off to your phone to read it, which I mean, I get it's sort of like in this like pristine, like, you know, minimalistic design world. You're like, well, why would you want to read on your phone? I mean, your watch, but it's just like, well, I don't know, because I'm sitting here and I just want to read an article on my watch.
Well, you're not selling me on it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really think it's like I think it is like a pure sort of just like fun luxury item. Like I think you can make it into a like this is what I've been waiting for. Well, I haven't been waiting to start back work and see how it works in the work environment, because you know, in your personal life, well, at least the way that we run our personal life, we don't have a lot of meetings and things like that. But you know, with work, there's all these streams of notifications and information you want to get onto. And I haven't gone on a trip with it either yet. Like that'll be interesting. Like, cause I used it to buy some coffee at Starbucks a couple times, right? Which is just like, they put the little barcode there. And I think in theory, right? Like, so here's your airport situation. In an airport, you're always like, how long before I'm boarding? Have I gotten on the upgrade list? What gate do I go to? Blah, 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 right? Like there's all this, like this is one of those situations when you're like sitting at the airport waiting for your flight that like you can't have enough information about things.
Yeah, and your phone is out nonstop.
Yeah. But given the complaints I was having about like app developers not doing enough with the watch, like I don't know if it's going to pan out, right? It might just be another dumb display of things. That said, there's a lot of travel related applications for the Apple Watch, a ton of them compared to
Well,
like
and that's the sort of affluent crowd that is going to buy it, right?
yeah.
So you know, start there and keep finding.
And I guess the Apple Pay thing would be handy too, but I still like feel weird about that.
Yeah. Huh.
All right, so so I think we'll say like platform unknown. That's a 2016. It's like, does Apple Watch?
Yeah.
Do people embrace the platform and new use cases and problems get solved, or does it kind of just fade into, you know, kind of like just niche thing that people don't really use? It'd be interesting. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth myself, so I don't have one yet. I do kind of think one would be fun, but I'm sort of just trying to wait for maybe version 2.
Yeah. And like if you set up default replies correctly, like doing your text messaging on it is pretty nice, right? Like it's nice to like just be able to glance. It's good to be able to like glance down and check on things. Like I like the whole notion of not having to take your phone out of your pocket. Like that actually is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But again, that depends on like people writing the software that takes advantage of that.
It's always down to people writing the software.
Damn software.
Yeah. So your 2016 is going to be spent getting yourself used to a watch.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon? Any big plans for 2016?
No, I have no big plans for 2016. I don't. I have no. I will say this: I had a great parental moment for everyone who has children. I helped my son learn how to ride his bike without training wheels.
I saw that. I'm jealous.
That I will say, you know, I like to be pretty cynical. I like to think that it's like that was a very fun experience. So if you have a child and you've already done it, you know what I'm talking about. If you're gonna have children one day, that's a fun experience. So
yeah,
if your kid is ready, get that done in 2016. That'll probably be your most memorable thing you do.
Yeah, that's part of the new bike for Christmas. I tried to teach my daughter to ride a bike, and she crashed and blamed the bike.
Blamed you?
No, she blamed the bike, so we had to buy a new bike.
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah, worked out well. I'm perfectly happy that she blamed the bike and not me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah,
we did that just before Christmas, and it was kind of like a miraculous moment because man, teaching like 5-6-year-olds to like learn so hard. They just like give up so easy, get frustrated.
Well,
or at least find that like and like I've discovered that I'm a terrible teacher. I'm just like, I don't know, you just read the words. What's your problem?
I can't read that.
Yeah. Like it makes me once again admire people who can teach more because they have the they have the patience and the and the perception to be able to like figure out how to make someone want to learn, which is so hard.
It's I was a little jealous. I can't get my kids into biking. So
I mean, and I think what turned my son onto learning how to ride bikes is he saw some of his friends doing it, and I think one of them even kind of made fun of him for having training wheels, and so it gave him like that intrinsic motivation to work on it.
Yeah.
And then, like
No, there's no
within
more
days, he was like,
powerful.
boom.
Yeah, no more powerful motivator than essentially peer pressure, right? Having your peers wanting to do it.
Jumping off bridges, I tell you.
yep, something to look
Yeah.
forward to.
Yes. Yes.
But at least you don't have a daughter. Well,
Yeah, I don't know. No help there, Matt.
yeah,
Ray.
no.
I got nothing for you,
That's
man.
that has a different bad kind of peer
Uh-oh.
pressure that picks up in kindergarten of all places. So,
Mhm.
anywho,
Well, how about we close out with some recommendations?
yeah,
This was perhaps not the most exciting episode ever, but you gotta just clear out the chutes.
slow news week. Slow news week.
That's right. That's right. How about what do you recommend, Brandon?
Well, I assume everybody, I'm going to give 3 recommendations because I assume everyone is already listening to all of this or seen it. But like one, we've talked a lot about Netflix on this show. And I also want to appreciate everyone who has hit me up on Twitter explaining to me their experience with their play from the beginning or not play from the beginning, which will be a subject. We'll follow up on that in a future episode. But to talk about the Netflix content side, if you haven't seen Making a Murderer on Netflix, it's a 10-part documentary about a guy that's wrongly convicted and then he gets out and then a bunch of other crazy things happen. I highly recommend it. I was just consumed with it, had some time off, and I ended up watching the whole thing like probably 3 days. It's awesome. Definitely check that out. I assume everybody that's listening to this has already listened to Serial, right? So new episode of Serial, get on that, season 2. And then today, for the sports fans out there, if there are any, is the NCAA college national championship in football. So with that in mind, I was going to recommend the Audible, which is a college football podcast from some guys at Fox Sports. So if you're into college football, they kind of go like the next level, kind of go into like some details about that you don't hear on ESPN every 5 minutes. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, check out the Audible.
Now let me ask this. So what is the allure of true crime? Like the making a murderer thing,
The true crime, I mean, one, it's a
the
very interesting.
genre.
It's a very interesting just to see what happens. But really, what for me personally is, I haven't. I mean, luckily, right, I don't have any brushes with the legal system. And there's the how you think it works, right?
Mm,
Like especially with someone that's pretty privileged in society. Like I'll put myself in that category. Like how you think it works, and then how, at least in the instances that they document, right, like how it really works. It's pretty
right.
eye-opening, and this has a lot of more broad societal themes in it, and it's kind of the stuff that it's just, again, like it's kind of much like the subject we talked about before. Like it's one thing to hear an abstract story about, like, hey, there's some people have disadvantages and they're on average, they go to jail more, and you're like, okay, like you just kind of hear that and it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really resonate. And then you see a specific story of it and you're like, wow, like
Right,
it
right,
kind of
right.
changes you a little bit. Like you're like, wow, I just had no idea. And then of course you can easily relate, well, what if that was me, and it puts it in you. It really brings another perspective to it. So at least for me, that's
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's a lot of value in the spectacle of real life, essentially, right? Versus like whatever. Yeah. All right, Matt Ray, what do you recommend?
Well, speaking of real life, I'm I always try to go out and learn more about what's going on in the rest of the world, and
That'd make a good T-shirt.
go see the rest of the world.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and so one of the things I've always enjoyed is sci-fi author and futurist Bruce Sterling, um, formerly of Austin, currently of Serbia.
I think
Um,
he lists his residencies as Austin, Turin, and some Eastern Bloc place.
yeah. But every year he goes and has kind of a back and forth series of pontifications and essays on the state of the world, and they posted in the Well, which is been around since Dickety Five, and so the 2016 state of the world is ongoing. It's usually like a week or two, and it's always a good read. And I didn't recognize that the guy he does it with is actually here in Austin and runs the local EFF branch, and they actually have a meetup. So kind of interesting. If you want to go hang out with futurists, I guess they'll probably be hanging out at that meetup. But yeah, it's just talking about kind of the global social economics and politics that are going on, and just bigger themes and smaller themes. And I don't know. I like it. Getting especially a lot of different takes. So you read some of that. You read some from completely different media sources. Just to get a bigger picture of more than just what's happening here in our little corner of the world. So
yeah, it's fun. It's like extended commentary on global politics and culture, sort of.
Yeah.
In an entertaining way. Those are always fun to read. So my recommendation this week, I guess it came out last month or something, but there's this 99 slide presentation about what to do with Yahoo. And I think it's from this little, I guess it's a hedge fund. I don't really know what they are.
Yes. He's
activist
investor.
Called Spring Owl, and there's multiple things that are interesting about it. One, I wrote a little write-up, a tiny one in my blog. There's a lot of the types of things we talk about in this podcast frequently going on in there. A lot of halo effect and reverse halo effect, right? Like there's almost this kind of rhetorically embarrassing part where they point out that the CEO of one of the companies they acquired is standing in a tree. Literally, it says underneath, standing in a tree. And it's sort of like they're trying to make the case rhetorically that like these people are wacky and shouldn't be trusted. On the other hand, like I've seen in person like the Google founders walking around in those silly like glove shoes, and Mark Zuckerberg only eats meat that he kills himself. It's sort of like whether or not you stand in a tree has no indication of if you're a good business person or not. So there's some little funny things like that. But it's also like it's a good example of investment banker think and how an argument is made. So if you like that kind of stuff, it's worth your time to just flip through it. It's funny, and there's also an informal nature to it, which you usually don't get in stuff like this. And then the other thing that's interesting is there's an article I'll link to that points out how it's a good type of guerrilla marketing, right? Like it's the small 5-person whatever they are, and all of a sudden they're super famous. Well, I wouldn't say super, but there's things being written about them, and their PDF is hosted on the Wall Street Journal's site and things like that. So it's a good way to like stir up some shit for some free marketing, which is something to consider. But you should check it out. It's fun to flip through and contemplate good old Yahoo. Lots of charts.
I think that was one of the things we're not supposed to talk about in 2016.
Oh yeah, Marissa Mayer. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they talk about her a lot. To be fair. On a technicality, this was from last month, so I'm just cleaning those shoots out. That's right. Well, as always, this has been Software Defined Talk. You can find us at softwaredefinedtalk.com, and this is episode number 52. So you can go to cote.io/SDT52 to see the show notes, those 99 slides, and other things. I guess I could make some sort of Jay-Z reference there, but I need some more coffee. And it'd be great if you had any feedback for us. We always appreciate that. And you can also, if you're interested in checking out what we do at my company, Pivotal, with our cloud platform and helping people with their custom written software and all sorts of other microservices stuff, and all that fun stuff we'll be doing in 2016, you can go to cote.io/pivotal, read all about it. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.